And are you ready to cast this, man?
Yeah, I really am. I mean, obviously, I've actually talked about this on a few shows, but ZVZ's kind of a challenge to commentate just because, it gets really technical these days and it's very build order oriented. So what I've done is I've made it so that I don't actually call battles because I will mess it up every frickin' time. But these two players are really interesting to me. Monster recently taking the GESL in Southern California, where there was 4 Zergs in that final, and they were not slouches. Some of the names were like, I believe it was Violet was up there. I can't remember the other ones actually. It was like Violet, Monster, and a couple other Korean Zergs. It was a top 8 Korean. And then Coca, obviously, making a re-entry into the scene after having a little bit of a scandal and then being kicked from, I believe it was Code S, but also the Slayer's house. He's come back, he's made his amends, and he's one of the best Zergs.
So, on Entombed Valley, I mean, as Zerg versus Zerg, you kind of see Hatchery first plays a little bit. It is more of a defensive map just because of the way that the ramp is situated. It's a very short, blockable ramp on the natural, of course. But we should introduce our players, I suppose. In the bottom left, we are going to have none other than SlayerSCoCa playing as the pink, playing as the Korean short name, is what we're going to say. Going up, of course. Oh no, that's the wrong way around. Sorry, it's MVPMonster is pink. I got that messed up. MVPMonster is the pink player, and SlayerSCoCa, I think, as the blue player. So, as I was going back and saying, is that this is a more friendly map to go hatch first on, but, especially with the dynamic of these two players, I would not be surprised to see anything early aggressive throwing down spawning pool first, extractor first, anything along those lines.
I really feel like Entombed Valley lends itself to some very interesting mid and late game ZVZ tactics. So a lot of times we're seeing these muta gameplay coming out, and roaches obviously dominate kind of the meta game for this matchup, so that's kind of interesting because there is a ramp leading to the natural and the third, so you could utilize tactics that have 5 or 6 spine crawlers or even infestors, and you're conceivably invincible against roach timing, so that kind of changes the way Z is played on this map specifically, and I get really excited about that because anytime you inject more creativity or kind of outside the box strategies, or at least lesser played strategies, I feel like that rewards the better player more often than not because they're the ones that are able to adapt and practice for those scenarios.
We do have MVPMonster actually throwing down extractor first, then spawning pool. So he's naturally just going to have Zergling speed out a little bit earlier. And I actually am a big fan of having Zergling speed out before my opponent. I feel that you're able to control the game well. You're able to run him around and make decisions for him. Basically, you're saying, all right, well, you need to put a spine crawler down. You're going to be on the defensive side because I could all in you at any point in the game. And in a match that's so fast and rapid and dynamic, is that you can throw an aggressive build at him without him hardly being able to react due to of course, the speed of the Zerglings here. And very later speed coming on, as we can see, a big 20, probably looking at a 30-40 second difference here between speed for these guys. So a lot of time for Monster to abuse that.
Yeah, we'll see the Baneling Nest here too to try to capitalize on that slight advantage, because what's also important to note here is that while it is nice to have speed, that's of course a big leg up, your opponent's going to have access to additional larvae, and especially with that queen buff and them having 5 range these days, they are a better not only tank but counter to Zerglings and even Banelings with that range. So with the Baneling Nest, you're kind of hedging your bets, you're investing here, and we can see that SlayerSCoCa does have that information. He is only facing a 1 hatch, which usually means Ling Baneling. I guess sometimes roaches come into play, but it's mostly Ling Baneling.
Yeah, so he already knows what he's up against, and you can see actually has got speed, but he hasn't got in. He's got a spine crawler inside his main base, and will try to block the ramp as much as possible with the second queen that is trying to get out, but it's going to be very tough now, as we are about to have Banelings being morphed on the side there. All 4 Wayne pointed to go in. The thing is, he has to control against these Banelings. If he takes big hits, he just dies right here.
You can see SlayerSCoCa's not minding gas, so he's basically saying, okay, it's going to be my queens, my spine crawler, and lings, and that's hedging his bets a little bit, because if he comes out ahead, he'll be here. Now the Banelings are going to walk in. You see the Banelings going after Ling. Big connections, but the queens are taking pretty good damage. One queen does fall, the other spine crawler trying to burrow, and it looks like he might stabilize. One Baneling does detonate again, killing about 4 lings, and that's pretty cost-effective if you're Monster.
And I think that, I think we're just going to see this game end almost now. I mean, he's morphing more Banelings, there's no queens, he's got no lava injects anywhere, he's got no defense inside the main base. Queen gets trapped immediately, which kind of sucks. Drone's coming pulled off as well, and I think that's almost over, to be honest. It's very, very difficult to come back from this kind of scenario.
And you can see that speed advantage really being utilized here. It's just barely going to finish, but as you said, I think it's going to be looking at the taillights of victory train here for Our pink Zerg, no, that's a big detonation, getting most of the drones. And I mean, even if somehow these Lings fell over and had a heart attack, the drone kill there pretty much sealed the deal.
And with the Queen back at home, he's just consistently auto-injecting, consistently building units, and the economy has been, ruptured now, unfortunately. And even though he's clearing up a few Lings, the drone count down to 2 versus 14. Not looking too well. And with the additional Banelings pop, down goes the Lings, and unfortunately GGs are called. G something.
That's nice of him. It's both languages, it looks like. It's like G in English and Korean. But
Jiha, that actually says like Jiha.
Jiha?
Because that's ha. That's like H.
Okay.
It says Jiha.
Jiha. Very nice. Now, Monster will take this first match, like we kind of said, and Tomb Valley has a lot of potential for the mid and late game. We didn't get to see that at all. But it's very common for early game ZVZ to be kind of, I like to call it the adolescence of ZVZ, where it's like, okay, we both go Ling Banling, we're angsty, we're aggressive, and if we can get past this stage, that's when we'll go ahead and slow down and get to the other stuff. But as it is, we just see the exchange of builds. Coca saying, okay, I don't need gas, I'm going to have more larvae, more queens. But really, a couple of those Banelings hit like 4, 6, and I think even 8 Lings. Like that's... If that happens once, it's a big deal, but it happened like 3 times.
Yeah, and without speed, not really without speed. It's without Banelings of your own. If you're playing Mineral versus Banelings, and I say just basically Zerglings against Banelings, you have to get those hits down. All right, so the second map between these two guys is going to be on Metropolis, a larger map. We do see more games being dragged out, of course, here as well, due to the natural being a little bit easier to defend with the destructible debris there already. And we've seen a lot of crazy styles. Actually, this is probably one of the maps that frontiered the Zergling Infestor Ultralist style of play, just because of the size of it. You don't really have Roach speed out early. You have lots of time to build Lings if he moves across the map with just Roaches alone. So very interested to see how this one is going to take shape here.